I want to welcome Angela Johnson, who's the VP of Marketing at Krystal. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you, Joe. I'm happy to be here.
Absolutely. Well, if you could please tell us a little bit about your career path. I know you've been at Krystal for a long time and sort of worked your way up the ranks there. So if you'll just tell us a little bit about your career journey.
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually started out on the agency side. So my first client was actually a Mrs. Winters and Chicken Biscuits, which is similar to like a Bojangles, if you're not familiar. There's a couple of them still around, but that's kind of where I cut my teeth in terms of understanding the restaurant industry and really kind of honestly falling in love with it. It's very quick paced and fast. And then from there, I had an opportunity to work on the Arby's business. And really that was more of a focus of media. So I learned more of the media planning side of things and learning about DMAs and really just a completely different aspect of how you support marketing initiatives from the media perspective. And then I've also worked with brands like Church's Chicken. That was more brand positioning strategy, really kind of leading that client from the agency side. And then I've worked with a company called Ovation Brands, and that's more casual dining, which is a little bit of a different animal from a quick paced fast food client. And then, as you know, during that time, mergers and acquisitions, big agencies are gobbling up little agencies. And so we were actually bought by Donor out of Detroit, Michigan. And Donor, if you're not familiar with them, large agency. At that point, I was really looking to do something different. So I went to go work for a smaller agency here in Atlanta, and worked on the Uncle Mattio's business. So Uncle Mattio's Pizza. And they were kind of new at the time, really kind of putting their brand out there. I was there 5 months and I got a call from the CMO at Krystal, who actually used to be my Arby's client.
Oh.
So, I say all the time, this business is truly about relationships. And so I actually told him no. I was like, I'm not interested. I'm happy. I like what I'm doing. This smaller agency that at the time that I was working with was very entrepreneurial, really kind of diving into kind of changing the agency process. So he convinced me and really thought, for myself, this would be a great opportunity to learn a different side of the business. So had the agency side of the business. Now I've been on the Krystal side, the client side, for about 6 years. And I came in as the director of marketing, really focusing on working with the agency partners and kind of the creative brand side of things. Then I was promoted to senior director of marketing communications. So that brought in more of the public relations communications aspect of the business. And then most recently, VP of Marketing, and March, which is very interesting timing because, the bottom fell out with COVID. So it's been quite the challenge. It's been quite the journey. I've learned a lot along the way, but I love the food industry, and I'm glad I'm here.
So as a food industry veteran all these years, what are some of the very unique things about your industry that you love that maybe you don't think you would get elsewhere? Or what are the things you maybe miss about other industries?
I think you have to be flexible in this industry. It is super competitive and you're constantly adapting. And so I tell people all the time when I'm interviewing them or I'm bringing them into the restaurant industry and maybe they don't have that experience, I really kind of challenge them. Are you going to have the ability to pivot and make changes? Because everything is very competitive. It's about price points and retails and who has the best deal. And you may run a campaign literally for a week and realize it's not working, regardless. It may have taken you 6 months to do it. It's not working. You got to change and pivot quickly. And I think also it's about having the right partners. I think that's key. But the challenges with restaurant is, I think you really have to understand your target audience. You got to have the data. Data is crucial in this industry. I think that's crucial in any industry, but specifically in restaurant, you need to know how to get that customer into your restaurant. And you need to be tracking it. So those are important qualities and things that you need to look for in terms of people understanding our business.
Great. So you mentioned kind of the path of your career from agency side and then eventually into client side. So what advice do you wish you had gotten earlier in your career that maybe would help somebody else that's just beginning their journey?
I honestly, personally wish I would have taken more risks. I think when, early on in your career, I've been very fortunate. I've had great bosses, great mentors that have really invested in me. But there were some opportunities along the way that I said no to because I think you kind of get comfortable. And when you do like your team and you do like your boss, that's a great thing. But I think take risks. Don't be afraid to maybe do something a little bit different. I'm glad that I've been in food for the last 21 years, but I will tell you, if I had maybe said yes to some of those other opportunities, it may have taken me down into a completely different path. We'll never know.
So, Angela, what would you say is your superpower? I believe that everybody has a superpower, so I'm curious what yours is.
Mine is being nimble. I pride myself on the fact that I'm ready for any challenge. And really, like I said, being in this business, if you don't have that superpower, it's going to be a little tough for you. But it takes a lot to rock me. And I will adapt and pivot very, very quickly. And I'm good at developing that skill set, I think, in my team members as well.
Excellent. So we're facing a pretty challenging time for the restaurant business, certainly travel and hospitality and restaurant, et cetera. And so even though this won't be published until later, right now we're at the phase of COVID where people are sick and having and there's a lot of concern about transmission of this disease, but
yes.
Also we all see the vaccine on the horizon and know that people are starting to get vaccinated, so that there'll be a point probably where we can get back to some quote normalcy.
Right.
I'm curious, COVID is one thing, but what other big challenges have you faced in your current role that are not just COVID related? And then maybe you can talk about COVID too, if you'd like.
Yeah, I mean, my biggest challenge right now with a brand like Krystal, I mean, we're an 88-year-old brand. That's one of the wonderful things about this brand. It's an iconic brand. Many people are familiar with Krystal and love the brand. But I'm also hitting reset on this brand. We're trying to create a new identity. And in doing so, I have new ownership. I have new agency partners. Most of my agency partners are brand new. Also building a brand new team. So new ownership, trying to build a new identity, bringing in new team members with new partners, that's a challenge. We're all kind of learning together. And I'll tell you, myself and just a couple other folks are really the only common denominator. So I'm having to onboard and teach and honestly keep the business running at the same time. So that is quite the challenge. And so for me, it's crucial when I'm talking to people and bringing them on board, whether it be an agency partner or whether it be somebody on my team, I need to make sure I have the right people. So, I know it's cliche, but truly people are your best resource. And if you don't have the strong team, you don't have the right people, it's going to be tough.
Yep. But it sounds to me also like one of the challenges you're facing is sort of that institutional knowledge, because you're bringing on new team and new partners.
Right.
You're one of the only common threads that can at least give historical context to any new programs that you're running, new ideas, that kind of thing, right?
Exactly. And I am that person, whether it's not just marketing, IT or finance, hey, Angela, what about this? They're asking me questions because I am that resource. And that's great. I love that because I love talking about the brand and I want to help in any way that I can. But again, that's again, one more challenge where it's not just about helping support the marketing team. How can I support these other departments who may not have that challenge or the knowledge, as you mentioned?
Mm-hmm. So where do you find inspiration, both maybe in your industry or in your company, and then outside of your company? Where do you get inspired to be able to help lead your team?
So I'm really big on, especially with my team, I want to get outside the office. So I think a lot of times as marketers, we're in our office and it's about the research and the branding and we get so focused on our job. I like to be out in the field. We put on our Krystal gear and our tennis shoes, and I'm behind the grill, laying a grill, making fries. And I have my team do that as well, because I think it's really important that, our main job, we call ourselves the RSC. It's the Restaurant Support Center. Our job is to support the field. If the field isn't successful, the brand isn't successful.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's getting that mindset. It's that customer experience. And so I really try to get my team out there in the field as much as possible. Also visiting other brands. We like to take field trips to other restaurants, and we do what we call dine-arounds. Mm-hmm. So we're looking at it from not only a product innovation perspective, but we're looking at it from a customer experience perspective. I genuinely think some of the best brands in the business, it's not just about the product, it's truly about the customer experience. Chick-fil-A is a great example of that within our industry. It's very consistent customer experience. It's a good product, but you're going to have a consistent customer experience. And that's what most people remember in their fast food kind of journey, or when they're looking at different choices. It's about the experience.
Yeah, I'm going to put you on the spot. When you're out working in one of the Krystals,
yep,
what's your go-to, like when my shift ends, I'm going to grab a blank to eat. What is your go-to item on the menu?
Well, I'm a fan of our chick. So we have a chick that's, everything's small, right? So that's our whole thing, is everything.
Steamed, yeah.
I do love the Krystal. But I also think we have amazing shakes. So, I'm going to have an Oreo shake, and I love a chick.
Nice.
So those are definitely my go-tos.
All right, you've inspired me. I'm gonna grab a shake. I'm a shake guy, so that's that's a good choice.
They're really good.
I like that.
They're not low calorie, but they're really good.
No, well, you don't get a shake because you're looking for low calorie, do you?
Right,
really?
Right.
So you talked a little bit about mentorship and leaders. So maybe two things. If you could talk about a mentor that's meant a great deal to you, and then talk about how you coach and mentor your team now.
Yeah, so I think probably one of my a mentor that I've learned a lot from was actually my very first boss. Her name is Kathy Hopkins, and so she runs branding actually for Marlowe's Tavern right now.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and so she's a mentor, she's a friend. She taught me a lot about the restaurant industry, and really helped me to understand how I can grow and really have success in this business. And she is someone who I talk to on a regular basis. We trade ideas. We talk about our businesses. She's put me in contact with other marketing experts where we've had coffee and talked about our challenges that we're having, or maybe a promotion or something that they're working on and they want to get my insight, and she does the same for me. So it's really important, I think, as leaders, that we're trying to get outside of the office. We're having these relationships, because that's really where you're learning, and people who have different perspectives. They're going to provide insight that you may not have thought about.
Awesome. So you mentioned agencies and that you work with agencies and set up as a matchmaker for brands and marketing agencies. So we sort of live in the space between, we're not an agency, we're not a brand, but we sort of help bring them together and connect them. So if you can tell me a little bit about how you work with marketing agencies today, and what kinds of things, for example, what kinds of things do you feel like you always need to keep in-house within Krystal? What kinds of things do you always want to get external, assistance or expertise?
Absolutely. So, one of the things that, that's a question I actually get asked quite often, coming from the agency side and now kind of being on the client side, how do you choose an agency? What makes a great agency? And for me, having that 15 years experience on the agency side, and honestly building teams to support brands like Krystal, I think you really have to understand what your key needs are. And so I think there's a lot of amazing agencies out there right now. But sometimes, as a client, I may not need the most amazing creative, from a brand perspective. It may be digital and social. And I would say you need to go out and find that expert in digital and social, and find whatever that piece of the business is going to be that's going to bring your brand forward. That's the piece or the skill. Mm-hmm. When you're looking at an agency that you should concentrate on, because I think a lot of times as clients, they want great at creative and great at social and great at everything. And I'm not to say that that's not out there, that unicorn's not out there, but a lot of times I think you're better off, honestly, having clear goals of what that one component is.
It sounds like you're more willing to manage a couple of specialists that are focused on being experts in one area versus a generalist that's good at many things but not great at anything.
Yes, I personally am not the agency of record that does everything. Here at Krystal, I have a media agency who's really great at media. I have a PR agency that's really great at PR, and then I've got a creative agency. So that's how currently I'm set up to support the business, and it's working. And I like that because they also are very collaborative. You know, agencies can work along each side of each other and get along. And I think also that challenges them as well.
So what do you wish that agencies, so you spend a good deal of time on the agency side and now a good deal of time on the client side, and there's some pretty big differences in how you work on both sides. So what do you wish agency people would understand better about you and your business?
This is a great question. You know, I think there's this whole analysis paralysis a little bit that happens on the agency side. And I think agencies need to do a better job of process. As a client now, I can't wait for you guys to go through 3 different layers on your side of the production team, the copywriting team, and the creative team. That's not how business works today. Business is very, very quick, especially in the restaurant industry. And so I think agencies really need to look at their internal processes. And I'll tell you, past agencies that we've worked for, when we've left them, I've provided this feedback to them. And some of them actually are in the process of making these changes.
Great.
So because I think it allows them to be a better agency. You know, I think you can't have all the layers is probably the easiest way to say it, like we've had in the past. And you need to be a little faster and quicker. And the other thing I would say, I look for an agency that is an extension of my business. And what I mean by that is it's not just about the branding and positioning. I need you to understand the sales. And I want you looking at my daily sales report, just like I am. And I want you to be looking at what my competitors are doing and really understand the business side of Krystal in addition to the marketing side.
I love that. I love that. So marketing is often looked at as a cost center rather than a value driver, or, you know, and so how do you show the value of what marketing does to the rest of the organization that may not, I mean, they're not all marketers. And so how do you translate what you do in marketing and make that make sense to the rest of the organization?
Absolutely. So I think one of the things that we have to do better as marketers is we have to celebrate our wins, and we have to get better at self-promotion. So, and I think a key component of that is how you package it. And for me, especially having new ownership, I'm in the process of learning how they digest data, how they digest analytics, and celebrating those wins. So I need to understand that, and then that allows my team to report and promote it in a way that allows us to be set up for success. And then also sharing those key wins with operations and finance, and actually having that collaboration. We also do kind of quarterly calls where we're talking about what marketing is doing so that everybody is involved. The other thing I like to do, I like to bring my finance people along with us on some of these field trips that we do. They love it. They love doing dine-arounds. They love being in the field. And, you know, a lot of them are like, I want to be on the marketing team. So, you know, it's really about collaboration, but really also I genuinely believe we have to be better about promoting marketing. Just like you and I would promote ourselves as a brand if we're trying to get a job, we have to do that as the marketing team.
Excellent. So is there a specific campaign or program that you've worked on since you've been at Krystal that you're super proud of or that's very memorable to you?
Well, I have to say the campaign that we're currently in, I'm proud of. It's the Hangover Krystal. So,
can you describe the Hangover Krystal?
I can describe the Hangover Krystal. Yes, the Hangover Krystal is our core crystal with a fresh cracked egg, bacon, and cheese on it. So it's got that soft crystal bun, and it's available all day. So you can get it any time of the day. Obviously, it's called the Hangover Krystal. We're leaning into that kind of late night day part that is unique to the Krystal brand. But you know, it was kind of a risk for myself and my team. We actually rolled it out right after COVID, you know, when COVID was kind of, you know, it was in May when we rolled it out. And so not that everything was opening back up, but it was a little bit better. And so people were questioning the fact that we were going to roll it out in the first place. But we did. It was so successful that we brought it back. So we just recently launched it right before New Year's this year. And
good timing,
you know,
for
great
something called the
timing.
Hangover.
Yes, exactly. We have our new agency that we're working with. They've done some great creative for it, and it's getting a lot of great engagement, and people want it to be a permanent menu item. So stay tuned on whether or not we do that. But you know, I like to think it's our McRib, you know, the McDonald's McRib, or it's the nacho fries. So we'll see what happens.
Excellent. So in terms of, is there a campaign or a program that you've run that maybe wasn't such a huge success that taught you a lot of, taught you new things?
Yeah, well, I actually recently tested and ran a campaign. It just ended actually in a couple markets, new fries. So as a marketer, you need to be listening to your customers, right? And fries was a core product of ours that wasn't getting great reviews. And so we knew that we needed a new fry. We went through the whole test process and cycle and doing the data and the focus groups. And what it told us is that we needed to have a seasoned fry. So think Checkers, think Popeyes type of seasoned fry, which makes a lot of sense because when you look at those brands and you look at the Krystal brand, we have very similar target audiences. So, you know, we did our focus groups. The data says this is what you should do. Great. Put some great creative behind it. We rolled it out. It did not do well.
Interesting.
So it is interesting because that's an example of you can go through the process, you can do your homework, right? You want to make an informed decision based upon data, but that doesn't necessarily mean that your customer it's going to resonate with your customer. So what it told us is we still need a new fry. Some people liked it, but as an overall menu offering, it's too risky for our brand. So we're not going to do that. So we're having to go back to the drawing board, looking at some other fry alternatives that are an elevated version of our current one, but it will not be seasoned.
It sounds like you're very involved with product and very close to the product as a marketer.
Yes.
So maybe talk about how you, are you just providing feedback and data back to the product team, or are they developing and asking you what your thoughts are in terms of as they think about launching something new, how are you going to launch it, that kind of thing? Talk about the play between product and marketing.
Absolutely. So one of the things that's different for every brand. For the Krystal brand, actually R&D and culinary lives under me. So I am responsible not only from the brand side, the public relations side, but R&D and culinary as well. So I have a chef on my team, and we work very closely together in terms of the product innovation piece. But and again, that's where it's about, you know, not just staying in our test kitchen and coming up with these ideas. It's working with vendors, right? So it's our partnerships with Coca-Cola. It's our partnership with Hershey. It's utilizing those resources as well. They have chefs on their team. And so we do what we call cuttings, and we're constantly kind of testing different things. And then once we come to a decision on something that we feel works within kind of the brand positioning, right, and is a good product for us, is we go through that process of testing it. So we look at, you know, the data, we do the focus groups, and we have a full process that we go through before we would bring it to market.
Awesome. I love that. That may be a little bit unique to your situation. I don't know that even most restaurant brands, the product doesn't necessarily live underneath marketing always. So that's kind of neat.
Right. It doesn't. And I think that's one of the reasons why I genuinely love working for this brand is we're small enough that you really have an opportunity to probably touch different aspects of the business that maybe you wouldn't have elsewhere.
Very cool. All right. So you're ready to shift gears to some fun questions that have nothing to
Okay.
do with marketing. So in which fictional story or realm would you like to live? Like, I'm a Star Wars fan, but is there a realm or
Yes.
fictional story that you'd want to be a part of?
Yes, and people, kind of think I'm crazy a little bit. I'm a fan of like the 1800s, like early 1900s. I am fascinated by like the fashion of it and like what they wore, and like, I mean, think Pride and Prejudice, which is actually one of my favorite books. And I don't know, there's just something kind of elegant and unique about that time. And then of course, like my sister or somebody would be like, it's dirty and they didn't have air conditioning.
Right.
Why would you want to live like that?
Right.
But no, I don't know. I love kind of a historical movie, books within that time period. I love the history of it.
Love it. So, where do you find joy outside of work? Do you have a hobby or passion, or what do you love outside of work most?
Well, I am a mom, so obviously family is very important to me. I have two boys that are very involved in sports. So a lot of my time is spent, I'm either on the basketball court or the baseball field. But I love that. I mean, that's really, what are we doing this for if we're not spending time with the people that matter? But I also enjoy reading. And I haven't had a whole lot of time to do that recently, but I'm really looking at books right now that kind of have that balance for me. We work so hard. I'm not great at taking kind of time off, and I'm not great of kind of like relaxing. So I'm looking for leadership books that kind of help me hit reset. And mindfulness is a big thing right now, right? Really kind of stepping back and finding that balance, and it's almost about like kind of redefining success for me personally, and trying to be better about leaving the office at 5, right? And I'm really also trying to set that culture within my team too.
Mm-hmm. And maybe a difference between agency and client side too, that I think clients
Absolutely.
tend to live a more balanced life than agency people do generally.
Yes. And I really try with my partners too. I understand that. I say a lot with them, guys, I get it. I've literally been in your shoes. And so I try really hard to be that client that I'm not calling you at 5:30 on a Friday. Right. If I have to, I will, but I try really hard not to.
Right. So is there a brand that you've never worked on, or maybe not in the restaurant industry, that you really admire, and why do you admire that brand?
Yeah, I really, the brands that can kind of instill whatever that larger idea is, like a Patagonia. I think Patagonia is an amazing brand. They're very true to the type of people that they bring on to support their business, but it's about this larger idea of creating a better world, right? Mm-hmm. They're really big into climate change. They're big into, helping support this future of this world that we live in, and the environment. And they do it in a way that, like, I don't know, they're really creative on how they do it. They're not hitting you over the head with it from a brand perspective. It's woven into everything that they do. And
woven into the fabric of the clothing.
It's woven into the fabric. Exactly. And I think that that's not easy to do. So for a brand that can have that, and it's really in every aspect of the way that they do business, that's a brand that I think that I admire and I'm intrigued by.
Absolutely. There are very few clothing brands that encourage their customers to repair their product rather than going and buying a new product. That's
absolutely
different, for sure.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so is there anything else that we didn't cover that we should talk about that would be worth mentioning?
I would just say, in terms of like leadership and building teams, I really kind of pride myself on individual success. And what I mean by that, I think it's important for companies to build their culture, and you can have a foundation or a process, maybe, that this is our leadership process and this is how we're going to develop you and make you better. But honestly, what made a difference for me as a leader and having my mentors is that they said, what is going to make Angela successful? Where does Angela need to focus? What are her strengths? What are her weaknesses? And so I've learned that. And I've had great people that have mentored me. And so that's something that I really try to instill in my people, so we can have the foundational process, but really spending the time. And it's hard to find that time to develop your people. But I really believe if you do that, it's going to help not only your team, but move the brand forward.
I love that. So Angela Johnson, VP of Marketing at Krystal, thank you so much for spending the time with me. I've really appreciated our time together.
Absolutely, Joe. Thank you so much. And hope you've had a great start to the new year. And I enjoyed talking with you.
Thank you.